Hi, and welcome to the Unhinged History Podcast, the podcast where two friends years ago signed up for homework every single week where they would compulsively study stories about things they only vaguely knew, and then they would regurgitate those stories to their opponent, their friend, their person they are slowly getting to know more and more, much to the chagrin
They're
of everybody around them.
confidant.
Ba-boom. I'm host one. I'm Theresa, and that is host two.
I'm Angie, and to be completely honest, we would have done the research anyway. We just now have someone to share it with.
Yeah, yeah. And now we actually like record our sources as opposed to being like, I think I saw this. Was it a book or was that No, that was the TikTok, but they did talk about
I watched it, I read it on the National Parks website.
this podcast has had me log into JSTOR so many more times post college.
Dude, so many more. Actually, yeah, so many more times.
Yep.
Yep,
Um, I'm gonna go first. You went last time. You took the whole episode with the Amber Room, and
yeah, I
this
did.
is good because the potential of me needing a palate cleanser is, I mean, there's the probability.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember how when I did like a couple of really delightful stories, and you're like, this doesn't.
This is sus.
Did somebody up my Teresa's anti-anxiety meds because this isn't quite right. I appreciate it, but the dopamine's a bit higher than normal.
Right, so she's trying to tell you all to just keep thinking about Felicia the ferret while she
Right.
tells this story.
Okay. So, I'm slowly gonna ratchet you up like this is the train car of the roller coaster going click, 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 higher and higher up.
Cool. So for like the next 6 weeks.
I'm gonna tell you the story of Charles Sumner.
Okay.
My
Off the top of my
sources,
head, doesn't ring a bell. Let's go.
it will, and I'm just gonna as soon as you hear the sources, you're gonna get it. The Senate.gov, the caning of Senator Charles Sumner. The Journal of the Early Republic, Volume 23, Number 2, Summer of 2003. The Caning of Charles Sumner, Slavery, Race, and Ideology in the Age of the Civil War by Benicia Sinha. And the book John Brown, Abolitionist by David S. Reynolds.
Okay, let's go.
Let's get ready to rumble. Okay, so it is 1811, January 6th. Baby boy Charlie Sumner is born in Boston. His parents, utilitarians, nope, Unitarians. Unitarians.
I was like, dude, I want to know how many pockets their pants have.
You know, she was rocking a cargo skirt.
Yes, get it, girl.
Yep. His father didn't have the cargo skirt. He's Charles Pinkney. Okay, I'm not Pinkney. It's Pinckney.
Okay.
Sumner. So I'm assuming that is mother's maiden name. That is now his middle name. I didn't do the family tree, but that is just a strange name. You don't get
That
too
sounds like
many.
it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, he's Charles Daddy. He is the sheriff of Suffolk County. Now, our man holds some very strong anti-slavery even convictions. Now, since he's sheriff, he gets involved in one of the very first fugitive slave rescue controversies, and then this happens in 1836. He ends up also helping a man named William Lloyd Garrison. Garrison is an abolitionist editor who was attacked by a mob the year before in 1835.
Right,
So
okay.
there's a lot of strong themes that are going to become stronger and stronger.
Okay.
Prepare for foreshadowing. Sumner, Charles Sumner, the one where the protagonist, because we have two Charles Sumners, so I'm trying to clear up the waters. He goes on to attend Boston Latin School, where the future abolitionist orator named Wendell Phillips is his classmate.
Okay.
And after Boston Latin School, he goes on to attend Harvard.
Don't everybody at some point in one of our stories attends Harvard.
I mean, you
If
would
they were born
think
in America.
it was fairly prestigious, but they're just letting anybody in.
Doesn't it seem that way?
I mean, I think what happens is when you are of a certain ilk, you have a certain lineage, then Harvard is easier, right? Like,
Yep. Yeah.
Harvard was never on my sheet. It was
Yeah,
never on
got
my
it.
bingo card.
Got it.
You know what
Yeah,
makes
yeah, no, I
sense?
think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
either Harvard or West Point if you're an American in one of our stories.
In one of our tip, yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
But for me, and yeah, that me and my line, we've avoided prestigious as institutions.
Institutions.
This is apple juice and water, and it sounds like I'm 8 beers in. So brace for impact. Now, after Harvard, he goes and trains under Supreme Court Justice Joseph Story, and these two develop a very close relationship. Okay. So close that he ends up, the Story becomes his mentor, and he would sub for Story as a lecturer at Harvard Law School.
Okay.
So our man has the chops to come in and do stuff because you're not going to ask me to pitch hit to lecture at Harvard Law. That's just no, not if you want attendance to be up the next semester. Now, during
Or
this
you
time,
do because y'all have no idea what she's going to talk about
right?
today.
It's like, ooh, let's roll the dice. Let's see how this goes. Now he's doing a ton. Like this man is a bit extra because he's writing a ton on his stance on slavery, and he's got some controversial ideas because at this point in time, Britain is stopping American ships in international waters if they're suspected in participating in the slave trade. And our man Charles Sumner is like, hell yeah. If they're doing something that could be illegal, I don't care if it's Guam. Pull them over. Ask for their papers.
License and registration, please. Also,
Can you
what do you
walk
got
a
below
straight
deck?
line? Yeah. We're going to need you to pop the trunk. I mean, it's that kind of thing. And he's just like, hell yeah. And so that's kind of a spicy take.
Yeah.
Now, he's also writing a bunch of pamphlets opposing slavery. And the concept of writing a pamphlet is so foreign to me as a modern marketer
Yeah, it's just the same. I mean, to me, like the equivalent of that is a Instagram post.
or a blog or something. But for me, I'm like,
Yeah.
pamphlet. Like, I keep thinking back to like high blood pressure and pregnancy, gestational diabetes
That
in
is
you.
also a pamphlet. You're right.
So for me, I'm just like, those are the only pamphlets that exist. And I think those are the only ones I've gotten. And my kid's 13. You know what I mean? Like, so it's been a
Yeah.
minute since I've gotten my hands on a pamphlet. Now,
Guys, this is her saying mail her every pamphlet you can find.
my address is Jamestown, California.
General delivery.
I'm going to end up having to edit all out. Anyhow, so he does all this stuff opposing slavery. Now, this solid stance of his really pisses off the who's who of his region, of Beacon Hill. There's some cotton magnates involved. And so they've got their feels about the slave trade and about people's positions within the the hierarchy. Now, they end up ostracizing our boy. And when he comes
Shocked.
up, what?
I said I'm shocked.
A surprise, right? So
Yeah.
he comes up for a faculty position at Harvard Law School, and they're like, ew, no. Now,
Fair.
this does suck for him, but he earns a spot at the cookout because while he's not able to hobnob and rub elbows with the who's who of society, those with melanin are making some room for him because he's hanging out with a ton of freed black people. He's seen often at J.J. Smith's barber shop. And okay, first off, let me sidebar this. It was exciting, fascinating, and Theresa, you should have damn well known better because to know that J.J. Smith's was a barber shop and it was a hub for political discussion made all the sense in the world,
Hmm.
but also was like, my dumbass thought everyone just sprouted hair in 1960. Does that make sense? Like you kind of go, oh, barber
100% makes
shops.
sense.
But it's like,
I love it when that hits stuff like that hits you in the face because stuff like that hits me in the face and you just look at me and you're like, yeah, and
I mean, like, and this has come for me, like, hey, barber shops also were dentists. And I'd be like, of course they were. It was old timey. Now, did I make the political hub Barber shop.
Like,
No, didn't
did
no
I make this
crossover.
a community center like it is today? Of course not. No, why
No,
would we? You don't go down the corner to the barber shop in 1812. Like,
I don't go to my dentist's office to discuss politics. And so the logic train missed that stop.
I love this for you.
But here we are. Now, so he is like hanging out and really enjoying and embedding himself in the society and actually walking the walk, talking the talk. Okay. Now, 1843, there is a law that is coming out that would prohibit interracial marriage. Our man stands up against it.
Attaboy.
1843. And he's like, absolutely no.
Yeah. Marry who
Now,
you want.
this ends up getting repealed. The law that he's like, it gets repealed after a very successful abolitionist campaign. So he kind of helps lays the groundwork there.
Okay.
Okay. Now, 1845, there is a lecture that's going on in New Bedford Lyceum. Now, he refuses to give this lecture here because the crowd's segregated.
Okay. This good for him.
I know, like you're like, oh my gosh. Okay, so he just like keeps like he's standing on business every step. He goes on to say that in the sight of God and in all just institutions, the white man can claim no precedence or exclusive privilege from his color.
Good.
It, bum bum bum. Now this is like a lot of this. You're like, okay, yeah, of course we know this now, but this is revolutionary in the time. Now, a couple years later, it's 1849. There's a man named Benjamin Roberts, and he comes to Sumner and he's trying to ask for some legal help. Roberts is a black leader in the community, and he's got this daughter, and she's struggling with segregation in public schools. Now, Sumner's co-counsel is a dude named Robert Morris. So there's like Benjamin Robert Morris, like Roberts are just weird
Right.
in this paragraph. Morris is the first black lawyer that's admitted in the Massachusetts bar. And
Okay.
they're working under the concept that separate but equal isn't, can't be, would
Fact.
never be.
How could it be if you're separate?
Right. And their arguments would get repeated more than 100 years later in Brown versus the Board of Education.
Okay.
Now, in Sarah Roberts' case, the one that he's arguing, they ruled against her. They lose, kind of keep the status quo going for a bit. And while Sumner loses this case, there's a silver lining because school segregation would get outlawed just 6 years later in Massachusetts. And I have to do the caveat there because it was Massachusetts where it was outlawed, and that would be in 1855. And then abolitionists would
Hold
cite,
on. School segregation was outlawed in Massachusetts in 1855,
yeah,
and it took another 100 years
for the nation to get
for the
that.
rest of the
Yeah,
country to
yeah,
catch up.
yeah, yeah,
Holy crap. Okay.
yeah. I know, but I'm like, whoa, this dude was like groundbreaking.
Yeah. Okay. Go him.
Now, they would end up citing Sumner's work as the foundations that really won outlawing segregation in schools.
Okay.
So he might have lost the battle, but he won the war.
That's all you can ask for.
So I'm going to back up a tiny bit. Before the school is are desegregated, it's 1851. He gets elected to the Senate. Now, his campaign is fraught with all kinds of political fighting. There's so much fighting that he's offering to withdraw from the race several times.
Like, hey, just please calm down. I'm out.
Yeah, and like I wish I'd had 3 more weeks to study just this because I'm just like, but why? But why? And like this is where I wanted to dig, right? Now, when he wins, he's said to be more saddened than elated.
Okay. Yeah.
And like I want to dig into that a bit more.
I think probably because he recognizes that his win is polarizing.
Yeah,
And
probably.
so, like, my very existence is, they're not ready for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if I haven't hammered this point home, our boy has a sterling reputation for one thing, being anti-slavery. Like,
I wasn't clear.
if you haven't gotten that from here, I need to practice my English because I clearly am not articulating. He gives his very first speech in the Senate, and it's titled Freedom National. This is an abolitionist critique of the Fugitive Slave Act. And he speaks to the Black determination to resist at all costs. He refuses to call it a law, referring to it only as a bill,
Okay.
because he's like, this is bullshit.
Good for him.
Now, he is such a badass that he would use the Declaration of Independence and the spirit in which it was written to make his case. And he's believing that the Fugitive Slave Act denied life, liberty, and due process to this entire group of people.
Not wrong.
Right? He believed that the Black community were citizens and entitled to the exact same rights as anybody else, everybody else.
Right.
Now,
I mean, it
Frederick,
says it pretty clear right there, like,
well,
in the words, yet.
yeah, but see, then you, because there's different ways to read the Constitution. There's the way in which our founding fathers literally wrote it, and then there's the spirit in which it was written, and there's people who are going to argue both sides till you're blue in the face.
Yep. And it will be that way for the rest of forever.
Yep. Now, because like this is one of like okay, there's some names that I'm going to drop. Frederick Douglass writes to our man Sumner, and in the letter that he writes, he says, quote, all of the friends of freedom in every state and every color may claim you just now as their representative. As one of your sable constituents, my dear sir, I desire to thank you and your noble speech for freedom and for your country. Heaven preserve and strengthen you. I would be thrilled to receive that just by baking somebody cookies, let alone like you stood up for your convictions, which in turn stood up for mine. This is
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. You know what I mean? Like he, again, so many cool things before we get to like the probably the only big footnote most people know. As a senator, goes on to secure presidential pardons for two men that are accused of helping runaway slaves.
Okay.
Like just every step of the way, he is continuing to hammer home his point. He ends up snagging freedom for the wife and kids of a fugitive slave named Seth Boggs as well. Like
I
just
love this.
like there was so much about this man. And I knew just cliff notes, right? Now, here's where we dive into this was all the lead up. Here's where we get to
Okay.
the main crux of the situation. It is May 19th, 1856, and our dude Charles Sumner, the senator of Massachusetts, he is an anti-slavery Republican. He addresses the Senate on this very explosive issue at the time about whether Kansas should be admitted to the Union as a slave state or a free state.
Okay.
And he delivers this speech titled Crime Against Kansas. And in it, Sumner identified two Democratic senators as the principal culprits in this crime. There's a dude named Stephen Douglas of Illinois, and there's a man named Andrew Butler of South Carolina. And he
Got it.
care you let that just exactly that. So succinct.
Mm-hmm.
He characterized Douglas to his face on the Senate floor, as a noisome, squat, and nameless animal, not a proper model for an American senator.
Okay.
So this this was some name calling, and
Mm-hmm.
Butler not present for the attack. And so probably because he's not there, Sumner goes a bit harder, charging Butler with, quote, taking a mistress who, though ugly to others, is always lovely to him, though polluted in the sight of the world, was chaste in his sight. I mean the harlot slavery.
That's so good.
Yeah. Now,
That's a burn. Hit him. Go, go, go.
you might be surprised that those are fighting words.
Nope. Oh, am I supposed to be shocked? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, these are things, right? So now, I don't care. Okay, so Sumner could have said the same thing about me. Some whatever it is for slavery, like whatever you want to put there, you know, won't go after that mistress gluten, whatever you got to do, like whatever
Yeah.
issue, you know? And
Yeah, yeah.
I'd get my panties in a twist.
Yeah, because that was a good burn.
It was a great burn. Now, I mean, obviously I'm firmly with him on slavery, so,
Oh my
obviously.
gosh, I wonder if he would have been friends with Mammy Fish.
Um, I don't know. I feel like he wouldn't be friends with Mammy Fish, probably because she was a bit over the top
It,
in everything, and he was a bit
it,
monomaniacal.
yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
would he have been
their
friends with
burns
Cassius
are good.
Clay?
Yes.
Cassius Clay and him probably, I think Charles Sumner and Cassius Clay had a very Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr. way of doing things. So there's a bit of an
Mm-hmm.
ideological divide.
Yeah, but I think they we're on the same page
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
of goals, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
They were marching to the same drum, just at a different
Just in
tempo.
I was gonna say in different bands.
Yeah, very different bands. Now, 3 days later, he delivers the speech, and then 3 days later, Representative Preston Brooks, he's not personally attacked, but he's a fellow South Carolinian. He has the option to challenge Sumner to something like a duel, like a gentleman, any gentleman with a fragile ego would do. Instead, he chose a light cane that he would use to discipline unruly dogs.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't
Uh,
like any of this.
no, I don't either. But here we go. Now, this is shortly after the Senate adjourns for the day. Brooks enters the old chamber where he finds Sumner busy attaching postal franks to copies of his speech. Do you know what a postal frank is?
No, is it like a stamp?
It is like a stamp. It is like a stamp for senators. It is like a free mail marking,
Okay.
but it's like a postal frank. Now I want a postal Fred and a postal Timothy.
Okay. Love this for me.
So Brooks sees his opportunity. He moves in with his metal-topped cane and starts slamming it on the unsuspecting Sumner's head.
Who is literally just doing his job.
Literally just licking stamps or postal franks.
Hold
N-
on. I did you Google what a postal frank look like?
I I didn't look Google what it looked like. I Googled what it was.
I
But
need to
now
know
that
what
you
it
say
looks
that, I
like.
think of Frank from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I think of somebody licking the top of Danny DeVito's head.
Yep, which is why I need to know.
If you are a postal worker and you know that they are licking Danny DeVito's head, please write in.
We need to know. Huh. It's basically, yeah, it's just a stamp.
It's just
I
a
just
stamp.
really, yeah. I
Paper
was
stamp or
curious if
just
it,
like a ink stamp?
I think in the image it sort comes out as both.
Okay.
They have an army frank that it is definitely a paper stamp, and then like modern mailers today, which is just the ink stamp.
Okay, okay.
But I was more curious, like what the like if it was an apparatus, that sort of thing.
Like an embosser kind of deal.
So,
Yeah.
that's sort of what I was thinking. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, you're fine. This was a delightful side tour. Now, because it's gonna get dark. Um, so Brooks is smashing down again and again. Sumner, he tries to rise up and then lurch blindly from the chamber. He's trying to defend himself. Now, in the article that Manika Singha writes, they describe, I say she, but it's they describe Sumner because I didn't look pronouns up. That Sumner really gets kind of pinned in where he's at. He's sitting at his chair at his desk. The desk is said to be hinged to the floor. That wording
Okay.
weirded me out because I don't understand what the hell is happening there. I've never hinged
So,
anything to the ground, but to the floor. Either way.
okay.
Now, Sumner is struck. Eventually, he tears the desk off of the floor only to fall down unconscious and covered in blood.
Dang. Okay.
Now, meanwhile, you have a bro named Representative Lawrence M. Kite. He's a successionist colleague from South Carolina. He's holding others back.
Oh, okay. So the
Yeah.
bullies are friends.
Uh-huh. Now, Brooks would later write about the caning in a letter to his brother. He said, quote, I struck him with my cane and gave him about 30 first-rate stripes, like a gotta punch cane. Every lick went where I intended. About the first 5 or 6 licks, he offered to make a fight, but I plied him so rapidly that he didn't touch me. Towards the last, he bellowed like a calf.
Wow, I hate this guy.
Yeah, so he's honorable. And like reading this, this is why for those of you, maybe you're new to this podcast, I love fighting. I love fighting, but I'm a martial artist. And so I hate watching boxing or MMA fights. I hate watching men like him fight. I hate watching fights for fun, for entertainment purposes that are drawn out where you're just playing with your prey.
Okay.
End it or don't.
Love this for you.
Right. Like, don't play with your food, put them on the floor and walk off. Go home.
Or
That
eat them. Do your thing.
but don't play.
Yeah, okay. I'm here. Yeah.
So when I hear that, he just like trapped the man at his desk and mollywopped him, it really pisses me off.
Fair.
Now,
100%.
bleeding profusely, Sumner's carried away. Brooks calmly walks out of the chamber without being detained by any of these stunned onlookers. He's got Sumner has several bruises and 2 gashes in his skull that are going to require stitches. Brooks has a minor cut from getting himself with his own damn cane. And this goes to me, shows how out of control Brooks was.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Like he's not fighting back and you took a lick from
Yeah,
yourself.
like you're hitting so hard. I'm imagining you're hitting so hard and so fast it just goes down, hits him, and bounces off of him and takes you in the leg.
That goes to show me that you had so much bloodlust, you took damage,
Yeah,
which is bullshit.
agreed.
So, the only reason, apparently, in hindsight, looking at, the sources, the only reason Sumner stopped or got stopped from getting mollywopped is because a representative from the North finally restrains Brooks. The cane itself shatters during the attack.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Now,
Maybe
Brooks,
that's when he took the leg is when it shattered like shrapnel.
I mean, unclear. We don't get the play-by-play, the frame footage, we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
break it
yeah.
down and just see where, the blood got in his eye and he couldn't see and figured his face was Sumner's. Anyhow, um,
Yeah.
there's a golden head on this cane. Brooks decides to keep it, memento. And he's got a page who offers to gather all the broken bits off the floor, like the relics of the cross. Brooks says, nah, it's good. I can just get a new stick.
It's fine. We don't need it. Yeah.
Now,
Asshole.
crazy enough, both of these men, Sumner and Brooks, become heroes in their respective regions overnight. In the South, Brooks is the epitome of manliness. He's
Of
honorable.
course.
He is just the picture of toxic masculinity. Meanwhile, in the North, we just see Sumner's virtue extolled. This man has
Yeah.
done nothing but stand on business and was made a martyr for it. I mean, he still lived, but
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
shed blood for his thoughts.
Yeah.
Now, I could go off and say about how I hate all of this and that and the other, but I think like I had to back up a second and I had to think about this in context, right? Because I dislike the ad hominem attack. I dislike the, the shameful beating, right? The
Mm-hmm.
dishonorable beating. But I had to think about this in context of like what happens now and how I kind of, like watching the drama. When Jasmine Crockett went in on Marjorie Taylor Greene because Marjorie Taylor Greene said something a bit off color and Jasmine Crockett served it up. I kind of went, yeah, I mean, it's that. It's that. In context, we have not evolved. We have not changed. We have just changed players.
No, yeah, I'm gonna agree 100% with you.
And so, again, not a fan of the ad hominem attacks, but I will admit I giggle at some of them.
yeah. Okay.
I mean, if it's a good enough burn, okay, but it has to be a
Yeah, yeah,
scalding
yeah.
hot burn or, don't talk about
You
somebody
didn't
else's
try hard
body.
enough.
Yeah. Now, Brooks had this known position in the Senate. Let me look back up a little bit. For when people thought about him and his work in the Senate, they thought of him as, quote, an antebellum pro-slavery thinkers often portrayed the abolitionist movement as part and parcel of a host of modern isms. And this part was nuts to me, and it made all the sense in the world, and we have not changed, including feminism, communitarianism, atheism, and red republicanism that would ultimately not only destroy slavery, but all private property, government, society, religion, and family. This is from the 1850s.
Are you sure this wasn't from last week?
Dude, I swear to you, the only part of this paragraph that doesn't play well in modern day is the talk about slavery. You edit one small word out, and suddenly this thing could be just played in newspapers nationwide.
And we wouldn't even bat an eye.
No, we still use all the words remotely the same. Like antebellum doesn't come up often, but I mean,
It could if we wanted to.
bring it back. I mean, I know. I mean, it's nice to see so much familiarity. It made me comfortable.
It didn't make it feel so weird when it sounded like yesterday.
Yeah, no one's talking Shakespeare in this newspaper. Now, all of this said, Brooks goes on to say that he only mollywopped Sumner because Sumner insulted the state of South Carolina and his aged relative, which, because I was kind of figuring out, like, but why does Brooks give a shit? And apparently, Butler is a distant relative to Brooks. So,
So this is like, you hit a burr, sir?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Nice to know that hasn't changed either.
Now, when Brooks caned Sumner, he, in his eyes, made Sumner equal to those that he stood with because both were beaten the same. So they now understand the same pain.
Oh,
That's why he chose to beat him and not challenge him to a duel.
I hate that.
And crazy enough, by beating him like he would a dog, like he would a slave, it puts a social stigma on Sumner. So everybody that is of the social elite and is too busy looking down their nose over their silver teacup, they don't want to associate with somebody who was beaten so severely like that. So they ostracize him.
I'd be cool with it if I was him. Be like, you know what? You're not with my time anyway.
Right. And I have a feeling Homeboy didn't give a shit, but here we are. But either way, like the thought processing, hot diggity. Like, what? Now, surprise, surprise, it's the caning of Sumner that goes on to radicalize and polarize both the Northern and Southern views. This is going to be a solid call to action that would march us down towards the Civil War.
Shocked.
Bum, bum, bum. And so, I don't know, considering that I said that, next week, expect more of the same.
We
I
are
made a
off.
theme.
A theme? I love a theme.
I know.
Oh,
But that is the
uh,
caning of Charles Sumner.
do you have a picture of him?
That would have been great. Hold, please.
I will hold.
Oh man, our man had some hair.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Yeah, like I haven't seen that much volume since Moose, a hair dryer, and one of them
Since
big
the
round
80s.
brushes.
There's no other way to describe this man. He looks like Darcy's friend in Pride and Prejudice.
Yes,
Mutton chops and all. That's actually exactly how I imagined him sitting at his desk.
right.
Picture number three.
This guy right here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
For all of you playing at home, it's black and white. He is dressed in exactly what you would imagine of the Civil War era. Mutton chops. Very stately looking fellow. Looks like his hair was probably freshly barbered, which checks for him. Um, Bit curly. Definitely Mr. Darcy's friend from Pride and Prejudice.
He
I can't think of
has
his name right now.
it's a borderline three head as opposed to a four head because he's got so much volume.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Honestly, I bet you his cowlicks are amazing.
That's probably why he keeps his hair that low, so that you just don't see all the swirlies,
That's what I'm thinking.
right?
Hmm. Love it.
But yeah,
I'm here for it. Yeah. That's fun. Though, I mean, he's fun. His story was not fun,
I
which
there
is,
were like yes, I hear what you're saying. It was one of those like, holy what? The what? The what? You know?
yeah. But you know what? I appreciate it and I appreciate knowing he stood on his business long before anybody else thought about it. Or, I mean, I'm sure there were others doing things and thinking about it, but you know what I mean.
Dude, I do hear what you mean. Like, because
Yeah.
it was one of those like I knew about it, but I didn't know about it,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Like I've heard it mentioned, but not, I don't know. I don't know.
I
I
didn't know the
think
background.
honestly, I was thinking about another famous woman, and I thought to myself, oh, I can't really do that story because she's so famous. It wouldn't really like it was really sound very unhinged. And then it occurred to me that most history that we've ever been told is like a paragraph.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like there is actually a lot more to each person. Yeah.
Well, and there's been several people where it's like, oh, you should cover, and I can't remember who they are right now, but I know I've covered them eventually. And it's just like, oh, I can't cover them. Everybody knows them. And it's like,
Virginia Hall was one of yours, and you were like,
Virginia
everybody knows
Hall.
who this is. And I was like, hey, I didn't know a bitch had a fake leg.
And I
Like,
was like, that's like table
the
stakes.
thing,
And you're
which
just
is,
like, what? You knew its
yeah,
name?
yeah. I mean, if it's giving problems, deal with it. Uh, well, that's interesting because I am not a palate cleanser today. Um, January 27th is Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Oh, you know when you sent me
So,
that text and I thought, oh, look at you looking
yeah,
at
no worries.
calendars and being so.
I actually had this story on my list 6 months ago for this day. Um, so please bear with me. There's some names in here I'm hoping I'm going to pronounce right. My sources. Well, let me just tell you, Theresienstadt, the Czech Republic, and their fake city spa town. So
What?
yeah,
What the what?
yeah, it's a city in the Czech Republic called Theresienstadt. It is a Potemkin village, or that's
This
the
is your
closest
source,
thing
or are we
to.
jumping in?
No, I'm just telling you what it's called. I only have
Okay.
a few sources. It's their fake city spa town. Anyway, Holocaust Encyclopedia is one source. The holocaustexplained.org is a really cool source. I recommend if you're curious. And then Newsweek had an article. Oh my gosh, I just realized I didn't put the author or the date that this article came out by Christina Mesa of December 26th, 2017, called Fake News in Nazi Germany. Hitler built a model town to hide that he was killing millions of Jews. So yeah, let me just start off with a quote from the Holocaust Encyclopedia. The Theresienstadt Camp Ghetto existed for 3.5 years between November 24th, 1941 and May 9th, 1945. During its existence, Theresienstadt served three purposes: as a transit camp for Czech Jews whom the Germans deported to killing centers, concentration camps, and forced labor camps in German-occupied Poland, Belorussa, or like the Belarus-Russian area, and the Baltic states. It was a ghetto labor camp. And I'd like to take a quick second to give the definition of the word ghetto. Like, I feel like we know because we're modern what a ghetto is. Um, but the definition of the word ghetto is a segregated part of a city where a specific minority, group, racial, ethnic, or religious is concentrated, often due to poverty, social pressure, or forced restriction, leading to stereotypes of crime, hardship, and underdevelopment. Though it's very origins vary from historical forced segregation, like Jewish ghettos in World War II, to modern urban areas facing systemic issues. Again, not that we didn't already know that, but it felt kind of poignant to put it there.
Heard.
Um, Thank you. The third purpose of this area is that the SS deported and then incarcerated their certain categories of German, Austrian, and Czech Jews based on their age, disability, as a result of past military service or domestic celebrity in the arts and other cultural life. To disguise the physical annihilation of the Jews deported from the Greater German Reich, the Nazi regime employed the general fiction, primarily inside Germany, that the deported Jews would be deployed at productive labor in the East. Since it seemed implausible that elderly Jews could be used for forced labor, the Nazis used this area to hide the nature of their deportations. So essentially, it serves as a holding pin for Jews in the above-mentioned groups. It was expected that the poor conditions would then hasten the deaths of many deportees until the SS and police could deport the survivors to the killing centers in the East. Huh.
Ah,
So,
welcome to paragraph two.
yeah, now that you have that in your head, let's get into it. I would like to point out that the ghetto of Theresienstadt had a really compelling and nuanced history. So, if any of the aforementioned items didn't already make that really clear, there is a lot about this particular place, and then by extension, every other area where large groups of incarcerated individuals under the Reich were set. I have questions about that I have yet to find the answers to. So just know there is a lot of nuance that goes into this area and not a lot of answers that are easily accessible. So,
I think that's the underpinnings of every story we've done.
right. I think you're absolutely right. So, the town of Theresienstadt or Terezin was a town that was established around 1780 around a military fortress. Now, according to the Holocaust Explained, the town was divided into two parts, the smaller fortress and the large fortress. And these fortresses were separated by the river Ohira, if I pronounced that right. If I didn't, someone can help me because I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But up until the Nazi occupation, the town's population, so from 1780 until the 1940s, the town's population sat at just under 4,000 people.
Oh, that's so
So,
small.
like we're looking, a little village, right? Like, okay, but then on October 10th of 1941, Reinhard Heydrich, who is the RSHA chief, which is the Reich Security Main Office chief. Think like Himmler and the SS. This is the establishment that they sort of run everything out of. Long story short, it's no bueno. But Hedrick identifies Theresienstadt as this desired Jewish settlement for German, Austrian, and Czech Jews that are over the age of 65. As I mentioned earlier, they could be First World War veterans or cultural or political figures within their community. So, just to drive this home a little harder, it's serving as a holding site for Jews on their way to extermination camps in the East. My understanding is that once you arrived here, it was pretty clear what your final destination was going to be, but maybe not spelled out directly, but it was definitely understood. So just like hold that in your mind because this camp does some really interesting things. Um, Once again, gonna bring up the Munich Agreement because I just can't help myself. But the gist is 1938, an area of Czechoslovakia is basically given to Hitler in hopes to sort of placate him. But then in March of 39, the Nazis invade anyway and they take the rest because that's what bullies do. So part of Theresienstadt's ghetto had already been a prison. So when the Nazis move in, the Gestapo, they just go ahead and decide we'll just continue to use this smaller fortress for that as well. And that part is established on June 10 of 1940. And then, and I am unclear what happened for the next year and a half, but on November 24th of 1941, the first transport brings in 342 young Jewish men. Um, their goal is to they're at the barracks and their goal is to prepare the town for mass arrivals beginning right around November 30th. And then a second transport arrives at 1,000 men, including a man called Jacob Eldenstein, who was an original member of the Council of Elders, and he arrives on December 4th. Here's where a little nuance gets in. The Council of Elders is this governing body of people of Jewish descent, um, administrative order. So even within the camp, you have your elders,
Mm.
right? I'm unclear if this existed in every camp, but it sort of seems like it did. But it stands out for this camp. So he arrives. And at the time, deportees could only bring about 50 kilograms of luggage, which they had to carry 2.4 kilometers from the railway station
Ah,
via foot. In case you're an American playing at home, 50 kilograms is just over 100 pounds.
yeah.
Yeah,
And the suitcases were not ergonomic. They didn't have rolling wheels, and the roads themselves weren't dependable.
right. And also, I'm not sure how many people actually brought that much with them, but there you have it. Um, so this journey, this walk, is a deadly journey for many of the elderly or ill prisoners, right? And oh, did I mention this camp is built for Jews over the age of 65 of retirement age. So,
Oh,
elderly or
great.
ill. Right.
Great.
Okay. So, upon arrival, they are then processed through the Schluss, where they are registered and stripped of their remaining possessions. So, I'm assuming that anything over what you brought in that luggage goes away. The Holocaust Explained.org says that, quote, following this, an average of 35,000 people were incarcerated at any given time between 1941 and 1945. Remember that when I told you when the town was built and up until the occupation, only 4,000 people had lived there.
Mm,
So
I'm
I
sensing
don't
some
know if,
strains in the infrastructure.
yeah, I don't know if I'm doing a great job of articulating just the squalor that these people were living in. During its time as this camp, over 140,000 people would be imprisoned there. 33,000 would die from deprivation, starvation, and disease from within the ghetto before they even made it to the death camps. The ghetto itself, obviously severely overcrowded, housing 40 to 50,000 prisoners in converted barracks with triple-decker bunks and overflow areas. Food rations are minimal: bread, watery soup, and occasionally meat. But this, because it's minimal and because it's trying to feed so many people, is leading to widespread malnutrition, which seems pretty par for the course. There is also poor sanitation and unreliable water supply,
Surprise, surprise.
right? So we're looking at deplorable hygiene as well. Now, they do have a hospital, but medicine shortage and limited treatment is sort of the thing. So I'm not real clear how effective having the hospital actually is. Initially, they were getting food packages from the outside, but that diminishes as the war progresses. And prisoners would either work within the ghetto or perform hard labor outside. The latter would offer the potential to possibly smuggle additional foods in despite the physical toll of doing this hard labor outside of the ghetto. But like, I don't know if you're thinking that maybe you might get an extra ration of bread, or you might be able to sneak some more cheese in from however you're going to go about doing it. It might be worth the hard labor.
Mm.
Like, that's what a lot of people are convinced of, right? Now, despite all of these conditions and these threats of knowing where they're going to be sent to afterwards. Theresienstadt develops this vibrant cultural life. You have Jewish artists from Czechoslovakia, Austria, and Germany, and they're creating art. And some are secretly documenting what the ghetto's realities are. You have writers, professors, musicians, and actors who deliver lectures, concerts, and performances, all within
Oh,
like their day-to-day life in this ghetto. And it houses a library with 60,000 volumes.
wow.
I don't know what the where my next part of the note went, but part of these volumes, a huge chunk of them are in Hebrew, and it allows their sort of religious or spiritual life to almost maintain itself for whatever reason. Like the Nazis didn't really hinder it here, which I think is fascinating when you like just think about it, right?
Right, because they're stomping everything out everywhere, and this they allowed for whatever reason.
Right. For whatever reason.
It almost
And
feels just like oversight. Like this was just an accidental mercy.
I almost think that, and this was one of those moments to me that felt very much a part of the nuance because, right, this area had previously been home to about 4,000 residents and previously been part of Czechoslovakia. Wonder if the library here had just been part of the original residents' collection. And when the Gestapo moved in, they just didn't like that wasn't what that was on their plates at the time, maybe.
Yeah, they didn't screen the books. They just said, "Yeah, good enough. Here we go."
Call it good. Now, of the 15,000 children who passed
Oh,
through,
children, sorry. Like,
children, yeah,
okay.
most are secretly able to attend school and they paint and they write poetry to preserve some sort of normalcy amid all of this. But tragically, approximately 90% of those children were then taken to the extermination camps. To make this really hit home, the Holocaust Museum has this quote from a young lady called Inga. I said this right to myself yesterday. Arbacher. She says, quote, conditions in the camp were harsh. Potatoes were as valuable as diamonds. I was hungry, scared, and sick most of the time. For my 8th birthday, my parents gave me a tiny potato cake with a hint of sugar. For my 9th birthday, an outfit sewn from rags for my doll. And for my 10th birthday, a poem written by my mother. I'm unclear if her parents survived, but she obviously did long enough to be able to say that.
That is heartbreakingly beautiful.
I thought the exact same thing. Um, I mentioned this earlier because this place is housing artists, poets, philosophers, writers, musicians. We get to see a glimpse of life for them through things like their paintings, their poems, their drawings, their essays, books, pamphlets, and the lectures they were giving. The HolocaustExplained.org adds that, quote, culture provided a means of temporary escape as the over 2,300 lectures which took place there show. Many focused on expressing themselves on pre-war topics, transporting prisoners' minds away from the harsh reality of their situation. They go on to say that the actors also performed several plays, such as Faust, and musicians put on performances, including a rendition of Giuseppe Verdi's Messa de Requiem, which I was like, wow, finding beauty in the ashes is intense when you know what's
The
going
ashes
on.
are so close.
Yeah. But then it takes an interesting turn because, as I stated before, we have a lot of artists and a lot of elderly. And under pressure, after deporting some Danish Jews there, the Germans allow an International Red Cross to visit in June of 1944.
This feels like an oversight for the dominant culture.
You'll see. For the June 1944 Red Cross inspection, the Nazis orchestrated an elaborate deception to conceal their genocidal activities. Beginning in February of that year, the SS launched a, quote, beautification campaign. Streets were cleaned and renamed, fake shops and schools were established, and prominent prisoners received superior housing. Before the visit, 7,503 sick, elderly, and disabled people were deported to Auschwitz in May to present an idealized settlement. Around 200 specially selected inmates were placed in temporary, comfortable housing and instructed not to speak directly with the delegates. The Red Cross delegation, including prominent doctors and officials, toured the Potemkin village, where prisoners claimed to be happy. Delegate Maurice Rossel reported no deportations were occurring. Rabbi Leo Bakic later described the effect as devastating. We felt forgotten and forsaken. And when I read the first time that the Red Cross delegation included prominent doctors and you didn't take a look at these people, like how close was the look you got to them? How did you miss the malnourishment?
I mean, okay, so I think there's a couple of things that happen, right? Like, there's various stages of malnourishment. Here's where I'm going to sound like an expert because the there's a podcast called This Podcast Will Kill You. They did a two-part series on starvation recently,
Hmm.
and they talked about the long-term effects, the short-term, all of that. There's many stages.
Right,
If you are not eating a single lick, you have a different set of things than if you just aren't getting green veggies. You know, like so there's
right.
so and I'm sure they took all the ones that looked iffy and treated them like food in the refrigerator. Well, this is iffy, just toss it.
Yeah, that
And
which we
so,
know they did.
right. And so I think we can't be too harsh on the doctors here, right? So could they have done more? Should they have done more? Maybe, but this was this was mastermind to do exactly what happened.
Oh, and they killed it. Excuse the phrase.
Yeah, that's
So,
yeah, there's
yeah, they
it's
knocked
it
it out of the park. We'll say that.
yeah, mission accomplished.
Yeah. So the deception succeeded temporarily with like overall conditions briefly improving that summer, but a propaganda film was shot like in the August and September called Der Führer schickt den Juden eine Stadt. The Führer gives a city to the Jews. It was never distributed. I don't know if that's probably because maybe the propaganda film didn't go over quite as well as the makers thought it was going to go, or maybe it showed more than they planned. Unclear, but it was never like released to the world.
I mean, that's the thing. You
However,
can't win for losing because if you have people that firmly believe in your power, you're giving something to the Jews. How could you? I thought you ran on against them. Or if it's like shows the badness, then that gets out. You know what I
right.
mean? Like,
So you
I
can't
think,
win.
no, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But on September 28th, the mass deportations they resume. 18,401 people were sent to Auschwitz in 11 transports through October 28th. So from September 28th to October 28th, 20 almost 20,000 people in less than a month, including Jewish council members and cultural figures. By November, only 11,000 prisoners remained. These are mostly elderly women. That month, the ashes of 17,000 deceased prisoners were dumped into the Eger River.
Ugh.
Yeah. The prisoners who had met with the Red Cross were deported to camps like Auschwitz in attempts to remove any evidence of the lie. I'm unclear what the Theresienstadt family camp is. My assumption is that is where families were allowed to stay together, but for most of the duration of this camp, the children were separated from the adults and shielded from the darker sides of it. Um, so I'm not entirely sure what the family camp was as opposed to the rest of the camp. I didn't look that up, but it was completely liquidated and sent to Auschwitz as well. As the Allied forces start to move in, the Nazis start to panic and they empty the ghettos and the camp in Eastern Europe and they send the prisoners on death marches. Uh, Approximately 15,000 of those prisoners would arrive in the last week of 1945, and that doubled the camp's population like immediately like within days, right?
Oh, good.
And
We weren't
for
crowded enough.
yeah, and for whatever reason, and I'm unclear why this is, but the International Red Cross came over two more times and took over the running of the camp in April of 45, but that really didn't matter because, or excuse me, in May of 45, that didn't matter because 1 week later the Soviets liberated the ghetto. That's the story of the Potemkin village spa camp, fake town, fake city of Theresienstadt in the Czech Republic.
Couple things. First off, that title is
A bit of a
that
lie.
misconstrued everything.
Hmm.
Two, you don't tell these stories typically. And three, you didn't tell me you needed a palate cleanser.
I told you January 27th is Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Sure, sure. But there was no, okay, and I tell you all kinds of stuff on the regular basis that have nothing to do with it, with anything else.
That's true. I thought you were going to say and you didn't. So I was like, well, all right, then it'll be a surprise.
Okay.
And you promised me unhinged dopamine stories. I wasn't sure if we were starting on the I'm gonna need a therapist afterwards
Oh,
this week.
well, yeah, right. Here we go. Yeah, I'm just
Sorry.
bringing buzzkills for the next good chunk.
Hey,
Actually,
but my next story is a fun one. So,
okay. Now, when I'm honest, let me actually look at this. So I misspoke. The next 2 weeks of mine are going to be buzzkills. I could probably figure out. I they're going to be buzzkills. I'm bringing the wet
what?
blanket.
Here you go. I know my next week's story is a romp, is a riot, if you will.
Okay. Now we've covered
Um,
literal riots.
this one is actually a human, so a riot of a person.
Okay.
Yeah. My following story is not.
All right. All right. So, we'll just play it by ear and we'll try to do this thing
Yeah.
where we communicate ahead of time on do we need something lighthearted to end on? What if we tried to like, I don't know, what's something you're super grateful for?
I love that.
I
What
mean,
is something I am super grateful for? You know what? Okay, this is gonna sound really, really cheesy, but it's really true. My favorite sound in the whole wide world is the sound of my kids laughing. And I am super grateful that even as teenagers, they still make each other big belly laugh. And I get to hear it all the time. That's what I'm grateful for.
that is delightful.
There you go.
That is delightful. Let me see. Let me try to come up with something. Okay, so we have this feral cat trapped in our bathroom.
He's still in the bathroom.
Okay, so for those of you playing at home who don't know this, um, the Sunday before Thanksgiving, I have a small house. I have a small 105-year-old farmhouse. We have a cat that came with the house, as far as I'm concerned. The house owns the cat. Feral cat hisses at you, but wants food and mouses. Okay, great. You stay outside and do your bit. I'll do mine. Now,
Yeah,
he got calories got away from him this winter. He's done great every year, and then he just started getting more and more emaciated, lost a bunch of hair on his back hindquarters, and bro didn't have the strength to run from dogs. My dog's in the backyard. And so ended up trapping him, kind of going, now what? All the
right, right,
no-kill shelters were full. I mean, this is me recapping because no, oh, you know this. And then going boogers. So he's been in our bathroom, our only bathroom, before Thanksgiving when we hosted people coming over. He's still there. He's gaining weight. He allows us to pet him. Um, and that part is super neat
yeah.
because like I won't re-release him until he's got some meat on his bones because I don't want to be,
That guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I want to do right by him. Um, and I can't let him run through the house because three dogs and a geriatric cat who believes that he rules the roost. And so I don't want this young scrapper who's just got his life back in him to take my old man out.
Fair, fair.
So. he's doing well, but he's like purring and he chirps and talks and he's starting to gain weight. And I think he realizes that we're good people and we're trying to do right
Yep,
by him.
we're here to help. I love
Yeah.
it when they chirp. That's one of my favorite things.
I mean, he's not quite as talkative as my old cat Twist, but very few things in this world are as talkative as my cat Twist, including young teenage girls.
I love that.
But
Oh, a
yeah,
pet twist for me.
if you have liked this delightful romp, even with all of our tangents and needing to pull each other up at the very end, give each other verbal hugs and say, "We got this. Let's do this again next
Let's
week."
go. Yeah, let's
Um,
do it.
Rate, review, subscribe, share this with somebody delightfully unhinged who is looking for a big bummer of a week. They need a good cry. You know, they've gotten a little too big
We
for their
got
britches.
you.
They've had too many cat videos in their life. You need to knock them down a peg. Allow us to
We
stop.
got you this week.
And on that note, goodbye.
Bye.